So just for all to know, we're about to start in less than a minute. We're just waiting for everyone else to join us. Thank you.
I think we should be ready to start in order to respect everyone's schedule. Welcome to Reengineering Mindsets by Deborah Jones and Symbiosis. It's a pleasure to have you all here. We are very grateful from this coming from the Symbiosis team that you were able to attend. Today we have a really special guest. She's an incredible woman, and I'm sure you're gonna love what you're gonna hear throughout this hour. Uh, I have been able to hear and listen a little bit about what's going to be discussed today, and I just have to say I was amazed and I was impressed by all the knowledge and the emotion that comes within this presentation. So I'm really happy and grateful for everyone's time, especially Deborah Jones' time, Debbie, as we call her, and I'm sure you're gonna enjoy it. First, I want to introduce you to Amor Alvarez. He's the CEO of Symbiosis, and he's gonna have some words for you.
Appreciate that, Miguel. Well, first of all, I very much appreciate also the time of the people that are presenting today. I'm pretty sure and positive that this is going to be a very exciting event, and also we will learn a lot. So we're pretty excited about it. And well, just for giving a quick background to Symbiosis, we're building this marketplace for connecting tech companies in the US with software engineers that are working at small agencies in countries like Mexico, in Argentina, Colombia, Chile, and South America. And they are available for being assigned full-time to remote projects. So what we want to do here is that we want to build bridges between the Americas. That's our whole mission. And well, if you have any questions on how to find people in these regions, we'll be more than glad to answer them at the end. We very much appreciate it, and I'll let you guys, you take it from here. Have a good one.
Thank you. Um, Now I want to properly introduce everyone. Deborah Jones. She's a senior quality assurance analyst and certified professional coach. Debbie has over 25 years in the technology space of experience. She's passionate about community work. She's also an ocean lover, fun fact, and she has been able to travel around the world. So basically, she's someone that has been able to live a lot of experiences, and we're gonna be blessed today to hear a little bit about those experiences. Um, with nothing else to say, welcome, Debbie. We're very happy that you're here, and trust me, I'm really excited about today's topic.
Thank you so much, Miguel, for such a kind introduction, and Omar. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the session we're having this afternoon on Reengineering Mindsets for 2021. I'm Debbie. Next slide. And let me take a second here. I digress. Sorry about that. I want to introduce my wonderful tech producer, Ashka.
Thank you, Debbie.
You're welcome. And my special guest is Unica, and you will have a chance to spend some time with Unica down the road in just a few minutes here. So as Miguel mentioned, I am a native Atlantan. I love all things beach. I have been in the tech space for a number of years in various roles, business analyst, implementation, senior quality assurance analyst. And the thing I love about where I am now at this point in my life is I am able to kind of marry my expertise in IT with my certifications in coaching to support learning about how mindset reengineering is such a critical part in remaining innovative. I love, as a professional coach, helping IT people and all professionals really kind of step back and be innovative in their approach to business. And I love paying it forward in my community. Next slide, please. So let's do a little housekeeping before we get started this afternoon. We really want this space to be a very safe space for all of our participants. We encourage everyone to keep their cameras on if we can, just so that we can kind of feel connected with each other, because we want the experience to be interactive. And we will be going to menti.com, and that's where the surveys and the polls will be administered. And if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat box or use the raise hand function. Miguel, our host, will be fielding those questions for us. Although we're encouraging to sort of everyone to sort of hold their questions till the end of the presentation, and then we'll make sure we answer. But if you have comments, feel free to talk back and forth to each other using the chat box. And last, we're going to give you a survey. We want to always make things better and better when we have these types of sessions. So Ashka will be putting a link to the survey in the chat, and we have a giveaway for those who are able to remain in the session till the end. Next slide, please. So what's the objective for today? Today, we're going to highlight key concepts that connect mindsets with the ability to manage disruption. Next. The agenda. So for the next few minutes, we're going to be talking about reviewing concepts around navigating through changing mindsets, re-engineering. We'll have some participation via Menti throughout the discussion to keep things kind of lively between you and I. We're going to highlight how self-care supports healthy mindsets. And then we'll wrap up with a giveaway for those remaining through the end of the session. Next slide. So what we're looking at, and especially for those of us in the IT arena, is the software development lifecycle paradigm. Now, as you guys know, in this industry, we're always doing an end-to-end, starting a concept and delivering a solution. So what does that involve? Well, we understand the problem or the pain points for our clients, and we do sort of a discovery with them. We come up with requirements, right? And then we design a solution that will hopefully not only meet the needs of the clients, but exceed the needs of the client. And then we set up for a delivery date. And then when we deliver that solution, we want it to be sustainable, right? So before we go farther into this, let's sort of take an opportunity to get to know each other and figure out who's sharing a virtual space with us. So Ashka, could you take us to Menti? And everybody go to menti.com. The code is there for us on the screen. You can enter the code 58801743 as noted at the top of the screen, and give us an idea of who we're sharing this space with by entering your name and your job title. We'll give you a minute to get into Menti. There we go. We'll wait just another minute. Hi, Sonia. Max, hello. Todd. Rob. Welcome, everyone. Looks like that's about it, Ashka. So thank you all very much for participating in the poll. We appreciate that. We know it's not reflective of everybody that's in the session, but perhaps going forward, a few more people can jump in as we get to know each other a little bit better in this virtual space. Next slide. So As we go through the process of collaboration, sometimes there's a disruptor that's encountered, and that disruptor causes tremendous stress. And so then that causes leaders to have to step back and transform the way we innovate. And then we have to figure out ways to resume that process. So there's a disruptor that we are looking at now, everyone knows, is COVID-19. COVID-19 was a disruptor that threatened our ability to remain highly collaborative and to continue to deliver those solutions that we talked about a minute ago. COVID-19 threatened our family's health. COVID-19 forced us to have to figure out ways or innovate ways to facilitate working remotely and facilitate distance learning for our children, and just in general, try to stay safe. So let's go to the next slide. All right, COVID-19 literally turned the lives of millions of people upside down. So here's an opportunity again to go to Menti, and I'd like for you to share with us some of the challenges that you faced as you had to adjust to this new enemy, so to speak, COVID-19. Ashka, can you go? Excellent. So you'll see that there are 3 questions on the poll. And just enter what your most challenging adjustment was at the beginning of the crisis as things started to unfold. It's leaning a lot towards not being able to collaborate in person. Yeah. With the second one being missing our routines, right? Of being able to go shopping, go out to dinner. Now they're neck and neck. We'll give it just a couple of more seconds, Ashka. All right. So it looks like we have a tie between missing being able to collaborate together in person, as well as being restricted to our homes, right? And these are perfectly normal responses in times of such uncertainty. So let's go to the next slide, please. All right, so it was a challenge for all of us in many ways, but here's the thing, we did it. We still got up, we still logged in, and we still kept things going. Maybe at a slower pace, maybe children were in our laps, maybe animals were running back and forth in front of the camera, but we did it. We came together as organizations and we navigated our way around the disruptor, COVID-19. So pictured here is an industry leader, a hero of sorts, if you will. His name is Eric Yuan. Eric is the CEO and founder of Zoom Technologies. It's really interesting, a little bit behind his desire for this capacity to be able to interact in person. When he was dating, who is now his wife, he used to have to travel by train 10 hours each way. And he said he hated that commute. So he always wished that there was a way that they would be able to have an in-person visit or be in the presence of each other without having to make that 20-hour round trip trek that he had to do. Now, his company offered a solution or a platform that transformed us from just a way to communicate with us on business matters to literally being able to do the one thing that COVID-19 caused us to miss the most, and that is to be able to connect. Yes, using Zoom, we were able to connect with our workmates, we were able to connect with our family and friends, and so we navigated or looked the monster right in the face, and we were able to keep things going, right? Yes, Zoom was an essential part of transitioning into working remotely, gathering virtually, and distance learning. Next slide. So let's talk a little bit about leadership. You know, leadership is a mindset. Like Eric Yuan, we all have the potential to develop solutions to disruptions that we experience. And because the fact is, all of us are leaders, either by choice or by default. Let's expand on that thought for just a minute. You know, innovative leaders aren't just confined to office walls or specific positions of leadership because a leader is part of their work title or their role. Innovative leaders are found in families, they're found in groups, they're found in the education field, they're found in the health fields, just to name a few. Innovative leaders are within all organizations, both small and large, found at all levels in the organization. So the question really isn't whether we're leaders or not. The question is, how will we lead? To take it a step further, mindsets are not just restricted to individuals. Organizations have mindsets, and we call those organizational mindsets their organizational culture. Next slide. You know, cultures exhibit fixed mindsets and cultures exhibit mindsets of growth. What do we mean by that? Well, cultures that typically exhibit a fixed mindset are ones that are fearful of changing. They're not open to change because they fear failure. Cultures that exhibit a growth mindset, on the other hand, view problems as challenges, as opportunities to grow. And if you have any interest in looking further into mindsets in cultures, there's a professor, a Stanford University professor by the name of Carol Dweck, that has extensively researched this topic. You know, there is a proverb that says, if everyone swept in front of his house, the whole town would be clean. So what is your individual mindset? How are you keeping the proverbial house clean? When we say organizational culture, we're really talking about a collective mindset, grouping, if you will, of the people in the organization. These mindsets have direct impact on behaviors, which directly impacts performance. So, as individuals, we ask ourselves a question. Do we enable a culture where social norms, processes are reflective of a mindset that's like that growth mindset, one that's open to innovation and adaptability? How about that? Okay, we can go to the next slide. Okay, so rhetorical question for you. When we're engineering or re-engineering our organization, are we accounting for the mindsets of people? As the slide says, 100% of the customers are people, 100% of the employees are people. If we don't understand people, we don't understand business. So here's another opportunity for you to share some thoughts with us using Menti. Ashka, can you take us to Menti? So the question is, from your experience, what's been the biggest challenge in re-engineering organizations? Process, technology, or culture? You guys are getting faster on Menti. It's interesting that we're talking about mindsets and culture has been the biggest challenge. That kind of dovetails exactly into what we're talking about. I love this. So now, so far, we've highlighted mindset concepts, and we've gotten your feedback on mindset impact. Reflected in this slide being that the most difficulty or resistance in organizations has been around cultures. So now, Ashka, if you'll go to the next slide. we're going to interview someone who has really dealt with mindsets on a personal level as well as a professional level. And that is the re-engineering of mindsets, I should say. Because really the truth is we all have to re-engineer our mindset. That's what facilitates growth, learning, and when we process things that we once perceived as failures and look at those things as opportunity to learn and grow, we really end up being grateful for that, what we thought was a failure or a disruptor when we get to the other side of it. So Unica, at this time, I want to interview you to get some feedback from you on your experience in this area, okay?
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Team Symbiosis.
All right, so Unica, let's get started by you telling us a little bit about your family, where you grew up, and what shaped your identity.
So I grew up in Richmond Hill, suburbs of Toronto, Canada. Richmond Hill is a upper middle class community, fairly diverse. My parents are immigrants from the Caribbean. Father was a systems analyst, mother a civil servant. But prior to that, my father used to play football, his national team footballer. He coached football, managed competitive teams, refereed. So from I was born, I was around the pitch. Football was part of my culture, part of my way of life. And by the time I became a teenager, that was my direction and very much a large part of my identity. People identified me, said, Nika's the footballer. That's who I was.
Okay, and by football, here in the States, football is something different. You mean soccer, correct?
Yeah. FUTBOL or soccer, yes.
Got it. Okay, so Unica, what support systems were in place to help you achieve this goal as, wanting to be a pro soccer player?
Yeah, so again, it was part of my identity. And as a teenager, everything in my life was built around this direction or this idea that I was going to become a professional football player. I played high level football. I used to train. I played on showcase teams. And then my parents also supported me with extracurricular activities to try and increase the probability of me getting a scholarship to play football in the States and then move on to being a pro soccer player. So like leadership development opportunities, like being camp counselor, youth leader. I was an air cadet. They encouraged lots of my entrepreneurial activities. But all those things that I did at that time was to try and, again, increase the probability of me achieving my goal or my vision of becoming a professional football player.
Perfect. So it sounds like, your parents are similar to most of us, many of us who are parents. We want to set our children up for the best possible experience in life. So now you've explained how you've had all those systems put in place and how your identity was shaped by this goal that you had. So take me through the day that you encountered the disruptor.
I won't forget, it was early June on the weekend. I was playing a cup match and I was 1v1 with the goalkeeper. Tried to touch the ball around them and keeper came through me, broke my leg, fibula, tibula. And at that moment, I didn't realize it, but my whole trajectory or evaporated. So after that, at that moment, I just assumed that because I'm not a large guy, I'm used to taking knocks, that I'm a tough guy. I'll be able to heal, recover, put in the time, and I'll get back on the pitch and I will continue on my path. But a year later, I came to realize that that was not the case. I wasn't the same player. Mentally, I wasn't the same player. I couldn't even put my finger on it as to how I wasn't the same player. And really those letters of intent and opportunities that I had went out the window.
So since we're talking about re-engineering mindsets, sort of take me through maybe just in a sentence, the progression of your mindset. So you must have been very discouraged at that point. You realized your dream, your reality was not going to come true. So then you had to do some re-engineering. So kind of share with us then, as you look back, how did re-engineering the plan or your mindset at that time propel you forward? Not only propelled you forward, but proved to establish the platform for your whole career and your consulting firm today?
Good question. There's a lot in that. I would say that looking back, I recognize like a process of thinking that I went through. Like in the onset, I was very much in denial about it. Like I said, like I was just gonna heal up and go back. And then after, when I realized that like this is not gonna happen, I probably started feeling sorry for myself a little bit. But then eventually, over time, I realized being a footballer is not all of who I am. Being a footballer was a part of my identity. As I described before, as a youth leader, as a camp counselor, air cadet, I used to participate in entrepreneurial activities. So myself, my personality lent itself to doing other things and other activities. So I started to realize by putting in time and effort in these other activities, there's no reason why I can't be as successful or more successful than I was in football. And I think that was like the pivot point or the re-engineering of the mindset, recognizing that VUCA is just a reality of life. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Externalities are a real thing. Change is inevitable, and I don't have to be a victim of it. I can adapt to it, develop skills, and take advantage of the change that occurred in my life. I think that's how I would describe it.
Thank you for sharing that. And parts of that experience certainly resonate with me in my own personal life. So the last question for you is this, Unica. How are the elements that are common between your own lived experiences of re-engineering and that of organizations going through that process similar? What's the commonalities?
I would say the commonalities probably start in the recognition of uncertainty. It's like highlighting the idea that there's an interplay between intended strategies and emergent strategies. So what I would say is that the similarities is that as an organization, it's about positioning yourself to be on a track where you can be adaptable and as well develop new skills. So be a learning organization. So paramount to that is, as an organization and a leader of an organization who are leading people, it's about putting yourselves on a continuum of learning so you can be adaptable to the change that is inevitable.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Unica. If you could go to the next slide. You know, I really agree with what you said. And in that, continuum, it's about supporting people. I heard you repeatedly talk about support systems being in place within organizations. And it really is imperative that we support individuals because people in organizations encounter roadblocks. And what I mean by that is jobs are demanding. You know, we have more and more responsibilities that are placed upon us. People are wanting deliverables faster and faster and faster, and they don't want to compromise the quality of those deliverables. So that puts us in a place where sometimes between having demanding stakeholders, so many meetings, we feel stressed out. And then that causes us to have blocks. We're not able to innovate or even be happy sometimes in our jobs because we keep taking on more and more and more. We're no longer able to sustain a positive mindset when we're working in a fast-paced, constantly changing environment, and we're not doing that self-care. So it's really, really critical. Part of that mindset support, if you will, is to have self-care for the purpose of having good brain health. You know, things like exercise, eating veggies, staying hydrated, getting plenty of sleep or adequate rest. And last but not least, keeping our lives simple, keeping our environments decluttered. And by that, I mean mental environment, physical environment, and emotional environment. We need clarity to sort of go forward. Next slide. So I want to talk a little bit about the Energy Leadership Index. Now, the index itself is an attitudinal assessment. And these are some of the things we're going to cover in this slide. We're going to understand what the ELI is. I'm going to explain to you how powerful the results can be from looking at how our energy is presented when we use the data to shift our mindsets or re-engineer our mindsets with very specific intention. And then I'm going to give you some examples of how those levels of energy are exhibited in the workplace. So the Energy Leadership Index, I'll call the ELI, is an attitudinal assessment. It deals with human potential and consciousness, and it was founded by Bruce Snyder, who is the founder of the Institute of Professional Excellence for Coaches. Bruce sort of assigned levels to energy, the way we experience energy. And so it's good to understand that when we talk about experiencing energy, energy is the lens that we see things through. That's based on our past experiences. It's based on messages we've been given as a child. And so that lens sort of jades or influences everything we do, how we process information, how we take in information, how we use that information to interact with others. The thing we want to remember about energy or mindsets is all of those levels you see in the graphic, they are experienced by every one of us. Sometimes we experience those levels multiple times in the same day, same week, same month, etc. And no energy level in and of itself is a bad thing. But it's important to be aware, because if we stay in those levels 1 and 2, pictured by the yellow blocks on the graphic, in a negative mindset, the outcome is not going to be good. We're going to be blocked. We're going to not be motivated to do the best in our jobs or in our lives for that matter. We'll be in a state of inaction or lethargic. So let's see how these mindsets or energy levels are presented in the workplace, okay? Let's start with Bruce. Bruce exhibits mostly level 1 energy. Bruce is a negative person. He's critically self-aware and rarely takes action. He works in crisis mode all the time, and Bruce is a poor communicator. Bruce's core emotion is guilt, self-doubt, fear, and worry. Now then there's Sheila. Sheila exhibits mostly level 2 energy. She too is what we might consider one who has a negative mindset. Sheila is defiant. She's resistant to change, and she's very fearful, and she's a micromanager. Her core emotion is anger, resentment, and blame. She plays the blame game. So going up to level 3, cooperation, there's Bhavesh. Now, Bhavesh exhibits mostly this level 3, more positive energy. He's a forgiving person. He's a rationalizer, and he's a peacekeeper. But the thing is even though Bhavesh does these things outwardly to keep peace, when he goes home at night, he replays circumstances or scenarios in his head saying, I should have done this and I should have done that. So he is a peacekeeper, but he's not really happy all the time with the concessions he has to make to keep peace in the organization. And then there's Giovanni. Now, Giovanni experiences a lot of level 5 energy. He's positive. He's open-minded. He focuses on what's best for his organization. Giovanni looks at challenges and problems as opportunities for growth and development. Giovanni embraces change in people, differences in people. He's not judgmental. And Giovanni's core emotion is one of peace. Then there's Maria. Maria exhibits mostly level 6 energy. Again, she's a very positive person. Maria is a creative genius. She's a visionary. She's driven by her intuition often. And Maria, when she looks around, she sees opportunity everywhere. And last, there's Shi Ying. Shi Ying exhibits positive energy most of the time. Now, Shi Ying doesn't exhibit this level 7 energy all of the time because it's very rare that any one person stays at that level or exhibits that energy continuously. But here's how Shi Ying might look at work. She has no desire to place blame on anyone. She's fearless. She doesn't suffer from shame. She appears kind of a little bit out there, and she's perceived as being aloof because Shi Ying sees everything and everybody as one. Everything is connected. So, rhetorical question, how would it play out if key contributors and leaders in organizations could continuously stay at those levels 3 and above? What would the work environment be like? Well, obviously it would be playful. It'd be highly energetic. It would be an environment that's culturally sensitive. People would exhibit characteristics of being curious, non-judgmental, open to new things. And people would focus on similarities rather than focusing on differences. And so that's the great thing about the energy leadership assessment, the ELI index assessment, is that the data from this assessment is such a great tool to promote an atmosphere of innovation, because it tells us how we exhibit energy on a good day, and it tells us how we exhibit energy on a bad day. And a bad day means days that we encounter stress, internal or external. And then the great thing is that when we are debriefed on the attitudinal assessment, then we can take that data and literally put ourselves back into the driver's seat and start maximizing situational outcomes. And that's the part of coaching that I really, really love. It aligns with my core values of being able to facilitate solutions for leaders and for groups. When I help people understand why they react the way they do and teach them techniques to shift those reactions in a way that best serves them, it is an amazingly empowering experience. And then to have them come back to me and share real life examples of how they're happier at home and work after applying those new truths that they put the work in to uncover, it makes my day. So we can go to the next slide. So let's summarize what we've been talking about for the last few minutes. Disruption inhibits innovation in organizations. Organizations have mindsets, just like individuals, and those mindsets of an organization is called their culture. Transforming organizations is meaningless without addressing the re-engineering of mindsets. Positive energy in organizations fosters playful, energetic, and non-judgmental cultures. And last, change is inevitable. Therefore, organizations must provide support for people. Remember, we talked about people are the important component of every organization on an as-needed basis, whether that means providing executive coaches or change guides or what have you. Next slide. So that wraps up our presentation. I want to thank you guys very much for attending. Thank you so much to our host, Symbiosis, who've been wonderful to work with. Thanks to Unica and to Unica Hippolyte, our special guest, and also to my producer, Ashka. For those of you in the session who complete a survey, Ashka, can you put that link to the survey in the chat, please?
Sure.
We'll receive a 2-hour step back session. And then I'm going to continue the conversation by means of a free webinar or workshop in the summer. My website is listed on the slide. So if you want to go to the website to pre-register, you can do so. So at this time, I'll turn it back over to Miguel to see if we have any questions that we want to entertain.
Thank you very much. First of all, thanks for your presentation. I think it was wonderful. And when I heard it the first time, it really helped me. I had to analyze myself and realize that there were some problems within my own mindset that were making me truly unhappy with some of the aspects of my life, and most of them came from a poor organization between my work life and my personal life. So just by hearing it the first time, I was able to make some changes. So I thank you a lot for that, and I hope this was able to help all of our attendees here at least think about whether they have the correct mindset or not, because that is a really important aspect in order to find our own happiness. Now, moving on, we welcome every question, and if anyone has any comment or has some question towards Debbie, please feel free to ask them right now. Trust me, if you don't ask a question that you might have right now, then you're gonna miss it. You're gonna be like, oh man, why didn't I ask it? So feel free and use this time. Basically, we are trying to help you, and we have someone amazing with a lot of experiences that might help you. So feel free to ask any question. Okay, I think it was pretty clear then. I'm
Very
not
good.
looking at any question. I do have a question for you. I think it was something that I thought about during the session.
Okay.
It was really problematic for me to realize that there was a problem in my own mindset. I just got so used to uh, repeating the same things and having those negative habits that I was actually never able to realize by myself that something was wrong. As I said, until I had this presentation with you. So I wanted to ask you, as a coach, sorry, if you have any recommendation on how we can evaluate ourselves without the need of an external evaluation.
That is an excellent question. So, Unica talked about stepping back, and I offered the step back sessions. But one tool that professional coaches use to help people sort of step back, there are various wheels. One is called the wheel of life. And on that wheel, there are areas sort of divided out for our lives. There is a spiritual component, there is a financial component, there is a career component, there is a fun and recreation component. So one way people can sort of step back if they don't want to consult with an external resource is Google wheels, wheel of life. And once you find a wheel of life, you'll find other wheels. And those wheels typically have some sort of a scaling on them, usually between 1 and 10. For an example, if you're not happy, like you said, maybe with your work-life balance, you might look under career on that wheel and scale yourself. On a scale from 1 to 10, where are you with respect to your happiness? People go through those wheels, they scale themselves. 1 being the lowest level of satisfaction, 10 being the highest level of satisfaction. And then once we sort of identify areas, and when we go through this process, McGill, we want to make sure that we don't overwhelm ourselves. Maybe just keep it limited to 2 or 3 areas where we see opportunities for growth, and then figure out where we are on the scale. And then from that, work backwards. Start asking ourselves, okay, so if I'm not happy, if I spend way too much time working, what can I modify? How can I make changes? So after you look at the problem, if you will, start to formulate a plan, but in very small, achievable steps, so that and then track that plan. And then you might even want to partner with someone for accountability to make sure that you are following up on identify. You said, identify these areas I want to make changes in, and have an accountability partner. Some people partner with a coach, some people partner with a friend. And then you are able to sort of hammer out the steps and then make sure that you measure, set small, measurable goals to make sure you're on the track. Then when you do that after one area, go back and look at another area, and so on. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that really helps. Thank you. Also, I just send you to your personal chat some questions that our attendees are putting on the Q&A and on the chat, so you can read them.
Okay. Let me put my glasses on. The chat is very small. Okay. Have you ever, okay, so how can fear play how does fear play a role in the mindset, and how do you deal with fear when you're starting a new business? That's an excellent question. Fear plays a role in mindset in that, so all of us, it's perfectly normal to experience fear in our lives. And we all have what we call in the coaching business gremlins, but these gremlins are actually messages or underlying feelings of failure that will hold us back when we're starting a new business or any new venture for that matter. And so we have to sort of do some work. The short answer is we have to do some work and really get to where that fear is coming from. It's almost like peeling back layers on an onion. And once we begin to reveal the source of our fear, then we can start dealing with, okay, is that a real, tangible reason to be afraid? Studies show that 80% of what we're afraid of never come to fruition. So we have to really do some self-look inward or work with a professional and figure out where the fear is coming from, and then ways to innovate or remove those blocks that keep us. And really, when we're afraid in a new business, we're trying to protect ourselves from failure. But once we change our mindset and realize that failure is never really failure, failure is an opportunity, or what's perceived as failure is an opportunity for growth. Disney World, everybody is familiar with Disney World. Walt Disney went bankrupt many times, over 6 times, before he was able to get Disney World off. And when you talk to entrepreneurs or you start to look at their life stories, you see that failed efforts fuel us to grow stronger and to be better. They give us valuable data. So that's one way we can deal with the fear when we're trying to start a new business. Let's see, another question is, I hope that answers the question. If it didn't, feel free to type in your subsequent question in the chat. I want to be mindful of the time here too, Miguel. Do we have time for one more question to be answered?
Yeah, there are only 2 more questions, so I think we have enough time.
Okay. So I'm seeing, do you recommend an unfreezing event to help people to re-engineer their mindset? If so, how can these be created? I need a little bit of clarification on unfreezing, but I think maybe what's meant here is an event to put people in an innovative mindset. Companies who embrace, I talked a little bit about growth mindsets and fear mindsets. And we find that often companies, I don't want to say Google, but there are many, Google, Amazon, whatever company, this atmosphere of having innovative days. Some people have hackathons to encourage creativity. So as far as an unfreezing event might be, other companies have found it, or clients that I've worked with have found it very helpful to have innovation days, whatever you want to call those, to just sort of think outside of the box. So come with a problem or a challenge that an organization has, and then make sure a safe space is provided. And it has to be an organization that welcomes open, honest input. If we can give employees sort of that platform and just say the sky is the limit, I think this unfreezing event will be tremendously successful, because you'll have these outpouring of ideas, but we have to, again, it has to be a safe space where there's no retribution for expressing ways to improve. No one is threatened by that. So I think that's a great place to start as far as that. And it says, if so, how have these been created? I would say the leaders in that organization might really need to sit down and brainstorm, work with a coach, work with a professional, find out what the temperature is in the organization, what are the pain points, where the areas for growth are. And I would really recommend collaborating with someone to come up with the type of event, because events are not one size fits all. It depends on the pain points that are being experienced by the organization, and that needs to be decided collectively, probably with a professional as well as with the leadership team.
Thank you. So now we have our last question. It's from Sonia. I sent it to your chat, but if not, I can read it, whatever you
Read it
prefer.
for me, okay? Because I'll have to scroll up to find it.
Okay. She's asking, have you ever had to make hard decisions when culture and process did not meet your needs?
Have I ever had to make hard decisions when culture and pride? That is a superb question. Superb. I love that, Sonia. And the answer is yes, I have had to make very hard decisions. So what happens is, as individuals, we have core values. And for any of us who have been to a chiropractor, what happens is when we become misaligned with our core values, we have to make adjustments. Now, best case scenario, the question was, have I ever had to make hard decisions when culture and process did not meet my needs? Best case scenario, you have a team, an open growth mindset culture. You bring those ideas forth in that mindset culture, you collaborate, and one outcome could be that the culture starts to change, not instantaneously, but bit by bit, especially if persons in leadership roles are open and willing to change. If we can get buy-in from the leaders, buy-in from the key contributors, the sky is the limit. And then the other scenario is sometimes if we are in an organization that has a fixed mindset, Sonia, and the organization is not going to change, and we find that we are not properly aligned in our core values with that organization, then it might be that we have to make some tough decisions.
Thank you a lot. I think with that, we wrap up the questions. First of all, thank you everyone for joining today. I think it was a pretty good event. I really appreciate your time, Debbie, your experiences, as well as Unica's experiences. It has been very valuable. Also, just to remind everyone, if you could please go check out the link that Ashka sent in the mail, in the chat. Trust me, it will be a lot of help. After all, we are all trying to improve, and that would be a great feedback for Debbie about the meeting and the content of the meeting. So please, we will really appreciate if you are able to check it out. And also, as a last word from Symbiosis and myself, thank you a lot for being here. I really appreciate it. So I think that with that, we are done with the webinar. Debbie, I don't know if you have some last words.
No, in conclusion, I just want to thank everybody for attending. Again, thank you so much, Symbiosis, for being such a gracious host. And I hope everybody has a great afternoon and even better weekend.
So thank you, everyone. Have an
Okay.
amazing day, and thank you for being here.
Thank you
Bye.
all. You have a good one. Stay
Bye.
safe. Bye-bye.
See you soon.